Hi, everyone. This is Attorney Lilian with Lily Legal, and welcome to my immigration chat where we basically talk about an immigration topic and I take your questions live. So feel free to put your questions in the comments and we can get this chat started. So if you want a consultation with me, please feel free to reach out. My information will be in the description and on the screen. You can go to my website or call my office and we can get you started on your journey to getting your immigration status for you or your family member. Thanks. Okay, everyone. So today in this immigration chat, I will be talking about the basics of the fiancé visa. Okay, this is something that people ask me about all the time, and there's certain requirements that you have to meet before you can file for a fiancé. So I'll be going over what those requirements are, and when you're filing, what you need to include in your application to have a successful fiancé visa process. Okay, so the first thing you need to have in order to file for a fiancé, and this is non-negotiable because people ask me all the time, is there a way around this? There's no way around this requirement. You must be a US citizen. That's the first requirement. You have to be a US citizen in order to qualify to file for a fiancé. This is one of those benefits that I talk about of applying for citizenship and getting your US citizenship. This is one of those benefits that you get. So basically, as a US citizen, you are able to file for a fiancé. If you are a permanent resident and you have a fiancé that you want to file for, you have to wait until you become a citizen, or you can get married and go through the marriage route, which I talked about in my previous live session. Okay, so again, remember, first requirement must be a US citizen. So the second requirement, also non-negotiable. So a lot of these requirements are non-negotiable. So I'm going to go through them. So the second requirement that's non-negotiable in order to file for a fiancé is you have to be free to marry. So this means that you are legally able to get married. So this is something that, what does that actually mean? It means that you must be, if you were previously married, you are now officially divorced in order for you to be able to file for a fiancé. If you are not divorced yet, you have to wait until your divorce is final, not wait till you file for divorce. Nope, you have to wait until your divorce is final before you start the process of filing for your fiancé. So that's the second requirement. First is be a US citizen. Second, be free to marry, meaning you are legally single. Whether you're divorced, a widow, you have to be legally considered single and eligible for marriage. Okay. So the third requirement is that you have seen your fiance within the past 2 years. So this means, so we're in 2021. So between 2019 and 2020, you have seen your fiance in person. Okay. So you just have to see them one time within 2 years in order to qualify. But if you haven't seen them in person in, let's say, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, unfortunately, you do not qualify for a fiancé visa. You can go ahead and see your fiancé in person and then file that way. I've had people try to decide between the fiancé visa and the marriage based process, and it really came down to this requirement of having seen each other within the past 2 years. And if you haven't seen each other, you have to go through the process of seeing each other in person in order to file. And you need to provide documentation and proof that you actually saw each other in person. Okay? So that's the third requirement that's also non-negotiable. There are certain exceptions if you are from a culture that does arranged marriages. There's certain, those little tiny exceptions, but for the most part, for most people, you have to have seen your fiancé within the past 2 years, or you can go ahead and get married and file through that process. Now, the fourth requirement is your financial ability to support your fiancé. You have to be financially able to support yourself, your household, and your fiancé when he or she gets here. And if you're not able to support your household or your fiancé, you would not be able to apply for the fiancé visa. You will not be eligible to get the fiancé visa. Okay, so you really have to make sure that you have your financials in order before you start the process, because that can lead to your fiancé going to the interview and being denied because you haven't shown the financial ability to support them. So this is very important because that happens at the embassy stage and there's not a lot of control there. So you want to make sure that you have the financial aspects in control, you have it locked down before you even get to the embassy stage, before you get to the interview. Now, the fifth requirement is you have to provide proof of your relationship. So this is always where I get pushback from people, is the proof of relationship. So what does this actually mean if you haven't seen each other in, let's say, a year? You're not in the same country, you're not, you're not living together. So the requirements for a fiancé visa versus a marriage visa are different. They are very different. So for the fiancé visa, they're not expecting you to have a joint bank account or to have a joint residence or any of that, right? They want you to show that you are building a relationship. So this can be that you have, text messages. WhatsApp is a big deal. I've had a case approved based solely on the WhatsApp conversation. And that can be, and you can show when your relationship started from your WhatsApp conversation, and you can download those WhatsApp conversations and use that as a way to basically get your fiancé visa, improve your relationship. And if people are interested, I can do a quick tutorial and upload a quick tutorial on how to actually go about downloading your WhatsApp chat for Android and iPhone. They're two different processes, but I can definitely do a video just quickly walking everyone through how to go ahead and download those WhatsApp chats, because it makes such a difference. For those chats, I've had people, you can do it with or without image. You can do it, you can take out certain parts, if it's a little graphic and you don't want people seeing all of it, you can select the ones that are most representative of your relationship and present that for the interview. So you really want to provide as much proof of your relationship as you possibly can. So when you go to see your fiancé, so that you meet the 2-year requirement, you're taking pictures. You're meeting each other's families, if that's even possible, and you're taking pictures of those activities. And then you're also saving your messages if you send money to your fiance, especially Western Union, any of those services. You're able to get a printout of the money that you have sent and the dates that you sent it and who you sent them to. So it's really important to keep track of all those things, and that really would make your case strong as far as proving your relationship. Okay, so the final step, the final requirement, which is the biggest thing, and is where things can really fall apart, is that your fiance that is in the foreign country must actually qualify for a US visa. So what does this mean? It means that they do not fall under any of the grounds of inadmissibility. So something that usually comes up is if the fiance has filed for a visa before and they put information on that visa that's not accurate, it could come back and make them inadmissible, which would mean they will need a waiver. It could turn into a whole situation. And I have seen this happen. And this usually comes out at the interview when you have gone through the process. The interview is the final stage. And if that comes out at the interview, the visa will most likely be refused. And you have the option of filing for a waiver, but that's a whole other additional process that now you have to go through. So what I typically do for my clients is we have a whole conversation. Me and the fiance and the US citizen, we have a whole conversation about, have you ever filed for a visa to the US before? Have you ever been arrested? Have you, like, every single thing that could lead to a person not being admissible to the US, we go over it, and I make sure that we, if the US citizen or the fiance has been arrested, we make sure that we get all the records for that, because we want to be the first to tell US immigration about it, right? We want to be proactive and tell them, hey, listen, we have these court documents that show that, the fiance or the US citizen has been arrested, but we know that based on the law, this should not affect their ability to get this visa. So, but if we are waiting, so if I don't know about it and we're not telling US immigration about it, they would think that we are trying to hide it. And then that could lead to a bunch of problems that you do not want. So if you have anything in your history, whether it's criminal records or your immigration history, it's best to let me know so that we know the best way to go about presenting that information to US immigration and making sure that you qualify for the visa. Now, a bonus this is a bonus tip now that I'm talking about the criminal records. So there is a requirement that if a US citizen is filing for a fiance, there's certain crimes that if the US citizen has committed, that they cannot automatically file for a fiance. So these are sexual assault, abuse crimes. You are automatically disqualified. There are exceptions. There are ways that you can go about being able to file for a fiance, but those are the specific types of crimes that will make it less likely for a US citizen to be able to file for a fiance. Okay, I see we have some questions. I'll go ahead and click on this. Do you know the requirements for turning a student visa? Okay, I don't have the looks to have a spouse in America. Do you know the requirements of turning a student visa into a green card instead? So I would need some clarification, Mohammed. So if you are So are you saying turning a student visa into a green card based on marriage or based on something else? So if it's based on marriage, you'll have to be in status in order, and then be married to a U.S. citizen, and the U.S. citizen file for you. I have a whole video on U.S. citizens filing for non-citizens in the U.S. But if you are talking about applying for a student visa and then finding a way to get a green card without marriage. So typically the sequence that most student visa holders go through is after you finish your study, you would do OPT, which allows you to work for a company. And then while you're doing that, you'll be basically soliciting the company to hire you full-time after your OPT is done, and to file a visa application for you. So this can be in the form of a H-1B visa. There's other types of visa that you could qualify for depending on your country of origin. So there are options available, but I would need more information to know if those options are available to you. So feel free, like I always say, you can reach out and just schedule a consultation so that I will see exactly what your particular situation is and all the different options that can apply to you. So I'll give you a quick example. So someone from Liberia that's here on a student visa, but that has funding, let's say they want to invest in a business here, they have the financial ability to invest in a business. There is, it's called a E2 visa, right? This is because there's a treaty between the US and Liberia. So you're able to then apply for this visa and invest in the business as a way of getting a visa to stay in the US. And that can also translate into, depending on how much you have to invest, there's also other visas that will lead to a green card. So there's so many options, but for me to know exactly what options apply to you, you would just need to schedule that consultation so that I can get you an individual case strategy. Okay. So if you are just joining us, welcome to Immigration Chat. Please feel free to put your questions in the comments, and I will be responding to you as we go along. I will just go over the fiancé visa requirements one more time for everyone just joining us. And again, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. And if you're watching this on the replay and you have questions, please, please, please put them in the comments and I will respond to you. So in order for a person to file for a fiancé, one, they have to be a US citizen. Two, they have to be free to marry. That means legally free to marry. They have to have seen their fiancé in the past 2 years. They have to have the ability to support themselves and their fiancé. They have to provide proof of their relationship, which can be through WhatsApp chat, pictures, things of that nature. And the sixth requirement is that the fiancé has to actually qualify for the visa, meaning they don't have anything in their immigration history or their criminal history that will lead to them not being able to qualify for a visa to the US. And then the final requirement is that the fiancé, that's the US citizen, right? The US citizen has to, the US citizen has to have a clean criminal record, meaning that there's certain crimes like assault or abuse, sexual assault specifically, especially when it involves a minor, would lead to a US citizen not being able to file for a fiancé. But again, that is not an automatic. So there are ways to basically show that the person has been rehabilitated, but it's a whole analysis that we have to do and make sure that we are given U.S. immigration the right documentation and information to basically show the rehabilitation and the growth of the person. Okay, so have one more question. Is there any updates on people who applied for citizenship? So if you apply for citizenship, those applications are being processed. Some states, depending on when you filed and what their COVID restrictions are, they're not scheduling as many interviews as they used to. So it might take some time for you to be scheduled, but they are scheduling those, and they are processing those applications. And something else they're doing is when you have your application, depending on what city or state you're in, you might be able to have your citizenship ceremony the same day. So you might leave there after your interview with your citizenship certificate. I just had a client that went through that process this week, went through her interview, came out, and she had her citizenship certificate, and she's very happy about that. So it really, right now, applying for citizenship is happening. They're processing those applications. And if you've already applied, it depends how long ago you applied and what state you're in, because each state has their own processing time. So there's a lot of different layers to it. If you want us to do a case follow-up for you, please feel free to reach out and schedule a consultation, and we will be able to do a follow-up for you to see where your application is and if you need to do anything to speed up that process. Okay? So if you are just joining us, this is Immigration Chat with me, Attorney Lily, and we are going through fiancé visas and answering your questions. And as you can see, your questions do not have to be specifically about fiancé visas. This chat is for me and you to talk about your immigration issues, what you want answered, and I will be giving you general information on the fiancé visa while I wait for your questions. Okay? So I just want to go in and talk a little bit more about the free to marry. So in order to be considered legally free to marry, you have to be single. And what does that actually mean? That means if you were married before, you got a divorce, you're a widow, but you are considered single, not married. So if you're separated, even if you've been separated for 20 years, you still have to go through the process of getting a divorce to be able to file for a fiancé. And filing for divorce does not make you free to marry. So those are two different things. So you can file for divorce, but until your divorce is actually final, meaning the judge has said your divorce is final, if there's a waiting period that needs to take place, that waiting period is over and you are considered legally free to marry. If that has not happened yet, unfortunately, you are not legally free to marry. So that's something to keep in mind. I like going through that with everyone because it really makes a difference in your application process and the timing of your visa application. So if you already have a divorce pending, you just need to know, okay, when will it be final? And you can start the process of filling out forms and collecting your documentation, but you cannot actually file until that divorce is final and you have the divorce certificate. Okay, so we have a question from Rebecca. Can a green card holder send an invitation for someone, I'm guessing for someone to come to the US? So this is a question I get all the time. So it doesn't matter if you are a US citizen or a permanent resident. You can, if you want a family member to visit and you're the one that's going to host them, or they're coming to an event that you're hosting, you can definitely send them an invitation. The thing is, right, that's not really what determines if the person gets the visa or not. So your invitation is just one part of it. The person still has to show that they actually qualify for the visa. So typically with invitations, the person is applying for a visitor visa, right? To qualify for a visitor visa, you have to show that you will go back to your home country, that you have sufficient ties to your home country. So the person that's applying for the visa to come to the US has to show this, not the US citizen, not the permanent resident that's sending the invitation. The person that's actually getting the visa has to show that they have sufficient ties to their home country, that if they come to the US, they have strong reasons to go back. So if the person, I can tell you right now, if the person is 21 years old, no, student with no attachments, no job or anything else going for them, the chances of them getting that visa is really small. Because if you have to think about it in that sense. If a 21-year-old is coming to the US and they have no identifiable reasons or ties to their home country that will make them go back when the visa is done, US government is not going to want to give that person a visa to the US. So your invitation is only one part of the equation. The bigger part of the equation is the person that you're actually filing for. So you have to make sure that the person has a job, or they have a business, they have a family, they have ties. So it can be that they are, a pastor in their church, or their community leader, or they have, if they have a business, they have employees that rely on them in order to have, to support their own families, right? You want to have things to show to US immigration officers at the embassy that the person has so much going on in their home country that they will come back once their visit is over. And then it also depends on what their visit is based on. So if it's someone that's into business and there's a conference, let's say the person is into manufacturing, pick any type of manufacturing, and there's a specific conference held in the US for that type of manufacturing that the person has built their business on, they're more likely to get a visa to go to that conference because that is their line of business. They have sufficient ties because they have a business, they have employees, they can show money going in and out of their business. And also something that is really helpful is showing that the person has traveled outside of their home country before. So if the person has never traveled to any other country and they don't have any strong ties, it's going to be difficult for them to get the visa. It's not impossible, but it's going to be more difficult. And you have to show, they would have to show more documentation and basically convince the immigration officer that they will go back. So yes, you can, I know I kind of went off on a whole thing, but yes, you can send the invitation as a green card holder, but the person you're sending it to needs to be able to prove to US immigration officers that they will go back because they have strong ties. So thank you so much for that question, Rebecca. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments and we can continue chatting. So let me see, what else can we expand on? So proof of your relationship, we already talked about the WhatsApp chat, if you send money, you can get proof of that in order to build your, basically, I got a record. So to build your record of your relationship, you can include all of these documentation. You can include your WhatsApp. You can include money sent. You can include pictures. All of those things helps to paint a picture of your relationship. And, you know, if you don't have a lot of different things, it's fine, because this is a fiance visa, right? They know that you're not married yet, so you don't have joint assets. You know, in my last video last week, we were talking about the marriage-based cases where you're married, you're expected to have joint financial assets and responsibilities. But for a fiance case, you are not expected to have those joint assets and responsibilities. But if you do, which some people do, if you do, that's just a bonus, right? That helps to even prove that your relationship is real even more. But it does not stop you, right? It doesn't stop you from being able to apply for the visa, because you can show it through other means. Okay. So if there's no other questions, I think we are good for today. Thank you so much for coming to chat with me. Again, if you have any questions, if you're watching this on the replay, please feel free to put them in the comments. And if you want a case strategy session with me where I sit down, look at your specific issues and figure out the best ways for you to be able to gain status for yourself or for a family member, or applying for someone that's outside of the US to come here for a visit or to work, feel free to reach out and send me an email, or you can also call my office and schedule the consultation. If you are watching this where you can subscribe and like and share, please do that. This gets more people to see this content, and we're able to basically continue this chat and continue getting people the correct immigration information that they need in order to make decisions that will help them in their immigration journey. And that's why I'm doing this chat with you all, is to help you get one step closer to your immigration journey. Okay, thank you, and have a great weekend and a great rest of your day. Bye for now.